Hello, everybody, and welcome to Transform Today Show. I am your host, Rebecca Weintraub, and today I'm here with Danny Levin. How are you, Danny?
I am so good. Thank you for having me.
Before the show, Danny said, I asked him how he was, and he goes, I'm so good, it should be illegal.
If I was any better, it would be illegal. Is how but I was trying to give you space not to be such a character right from the start.
Well, that's impossible. So, yeah.
Sure.
All right. So just so you viewers know, when I was talking to Danny before we decided to do this, Danny changed my life within like 10 minutes. And
Wow.
it was all around shifting perspective. And a lot of the work that I do is based on helping people shift their perspective. So I'm like absolutely excited to talk to you today because I just have a feeling by the end of our show, like I'm going to be thinking about stuff on a completely different plane. So I cannot wait. And viewers, I hope that you guys like stick with us because this one's going to be a really good one. So first off,
No pressure now, right?
First off, why don't you tell our viewers how you help others in your coaching?
It's a really interesting question because I don't think I help others. I think I hold the space for others to help themselves. And I think that one of the things that I try and represent in my life in general is that we aren't broken. We don't need other people to fix us. Everything that we have is already connected to us. Everything that we seek is already within us. But what happens is for 10 years, I worked at Hay House, the premier self-help publishing company in the world. And I was the director of business development there. And so I worked with a lot of the top self-help gurus, quote unquote, in the world. And I brought them in and they were my friends. And I watched what happened. People in their presence thought they knew more than the people, than they did, that the teachers knew more than the students. One of the things I really am trying through the work that I do is end vertical relationships, end relationships where there's one better, one wiser, one stronger, one more knowledgeable, one authority. And create more of a Mosaic consciousness where every piece, no matter how small, no matter how large, no matter how shiny, no matter how dull, no matter what color it is, no matter what texture it's made of, no matter what it thinks or believes, every single piece has this incredible space. And in that space and in the power of each of us being ourselves, we create this artistry that is so magnificent. And so I believe there's a paradigm shift that has to happen. And the paradigm shift is towards bringing out in people who they are, rather than helping them or teaching them or giving to them. And I don't think you said teaching. I think you said, how do you do what you do? But I'm completely counterintuitive to the way the world works, because I believe the world doesn't work. And I believe the more we look to others for our answers, the more we won't find the answers that we have for ourselves. Because unfortunately, we are not all round pegs that fit into round holes. I've been a square peg my entire life. And trying to fit into a round hole, I've played my part, and I played that part a lot of times. But it never worked. Even when I shaved the bottom of my peg to be round, I was uncomfortable there. And so my voice is for all of the people who are square pegs. My voice is for all the people that other people look past. And to say, how do we find ourselves?
This is why I love you, Danny. This is why
Question,
I love you,
question
because
one, right?
I the work that I do around intuition is very similar in the concept that I truly believe that when we're born, our our purpose is right there. And as we grow, as we experience, as people hurt us, as we hurt other people, as we gain resentments, as we experience love and everything else that comes along with life, we can get pretty cluttered. And instead of going out and trying to find our purpose, if we just take a moment to really take inventory of what needs to be kind of cleaned up or cleaned out, we already have it. And purpose is not just a singular thing, and it isn't stationary. It can be many things, and it's always a moving target. So to practice that sort of maintenance of keeping ourselves clear so that our four dimensions, mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual, can be working in tandem in a balanced way to just keep us focused on that purpose. It's like, you're right. It's already there. We have everything that we need. We are everything who we want to be, who we need to be. And it's not a searching out there. It's becoming in tune and understanding what we need for ourselves and what's right for us by kind of turning inward, and therefore we can turn our energy outward and help others or produce or do what we want to do.
Yeah.
um
And I love that. And um, purpose for me is a huge thing that I um, play with in the world, because a lot of times I'll ask people, what are you here to do? Like, what is it that you've come here to do? And I can't tell you how many times I hear people say, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. How would I know that? I don't know. And if you would indulge me a couple minutes, one of the things I've seen is that this mosaic that is living and breathing within me just continues to show me things by connecting me one piece at a time to something else. You're a connection to that. It's already in you. The fact that we're having this conversation means the mosaic's reached out to you and has brought you into its artistry. The mosaic is all about connection. It's about how all these different pieces fit together and connect to break the lie that we're separate anyway. And that lie's become so easy to believe that we call it the truth.
mm,
And the truth has become so hard to believe we call it a lie. And the truth is that we're connected. The lie is that we're separate.
mm,
So we try and put all these pieces together when there's nothing keeping them apart. But the beautiful stepping stone for me of what I've seen is that, and this could be a very, very personal practice, and if it relates to anybody else, great. But I know for me, when I was at Hay House, what I found is the people that were writing books were not writing the books they knew. They were writing the books they most needed to learn.
mm,
And the Mosaic is definitely not a book that I know. It's definitely one that I need to learn. And I watch it, and I watch it work on me and teach me and show me new ways of seeing. And one of the places that I realized was how protected I am because of how hard I am on myself. And so the first practice of the Mosaic that it gave to me was just to be kind to myself. And I thought, well, that's been said so many times. I mean, why is that so important? And then it was as if I was in a movie theater and this scene showed up to me of my own self. And my own self was an image that I'm happy we're on camera because you can see, is when I'm hard on myself, I spend most of my day doing this, just trying to hit myself, just knocking myself down, just nothing's good enough, it's not right. And so the wall that I have to put up to protect myself is like 6 inches from my face, because I have to stop this hand, which is only a foot from my face, from coming to hit me. And so when I live with that wall all around me, I'm not open to anything. I can't see anything. I only see what's in my silo. I only see what I've always seen. When I'm kind to myself, now suddenly I can drop this wall of protection that stops my own hand from hitting me. Now, when I meet you, I might get scared and I might put up another wall, but that wall is going to be out here. I'm going to have a little bit of breathing room, because you're not going to try and hit me. I mean, I'm the only one that hits me like that. You might try and hit me, right? But I got more distance. I have more place that I can protect myself out here. But I also now know how to take down that wall, because I've already taken down the wall of my own. And so what that allows me to start to become is the second practice, which is becoming vulnerable. And when I become vulnerable, suddenly I allow you into me, and I allow me, the real me, to come to you, because I want you to know the real me. I want you to feel the real me, and I want to feel the real you. And in that vulnerability, I am now starting to be, my walls are down, I'm starting to be open, and all sorts of things from the world can now enter into me, because the wall that used to be here is now not there. And in that openness, I start to understand practice 3, which is do what you came to do, purpose. I can start to hear my purpose. I can start to feel my purpose. I can start to see it, because my purpose is connected to everything that I experience and everything that I know. But when my experience is just here, I have no idea what my purpose is. So now in this new open environment, I can experience purpose. And so when I come from a place of kindness and a place of vulnerability and a place of purpose, and that's who I am and how I walk into the world, I start to make connections that connect to that. So I start to meet kind people who are vulnerable and open, who are purposeful people. And then we can become like-minded communities. Then we can start to bring our purposefulness, our openness, our kindness into a world as a living, breathing mosaic. And that kindness will allow for for unlike minds to be a part of us. It will allow for different races and nations and economic levels of achievement, and colors and religions, and that kindness is now opened up the world from this silo that was right here because I was scared, to this open field that has no silos. And that's my dream, to break the silos and to invite people into the field.
So if this is a concept that you practice, and you mentioned that you've met others who are like-minded, who believe that that's their worldview as well, how do you take it from a small group, relatively speaking, to influencing others to see this perspective and then perhaps even try it on for size for themselves?
We are in that process now. And one of the things that we are creating, first of all, I've got the book. I know this isn't my time to talk about the book, but the book just called The Mosaic has just come out. I'm talking to PR people. And in my conversations with PR people, one of the things that amazes me is they watch the news, they watch media, they watch issues, they see what's going on. And one of the things that they're saying is we live in a world where there are so many problems. And what happens is people stand on both sides of those problems. Uh, and they fight each other from one side to the other. We talk too much, and I'm guilty of it too. But because I want to try and be pithy and short. But these ideas are so new in some ways to people that I feel like I have to explain it a little more than I want to. I have the beautiful gift of being given a 28-year-old developmentally delayed daughter. I didn't always think she was my gift. Sometimes it was really hard because she can't do what other people do. There's so many things so many issues she has, and so many things she's facing. And one of the things she can't do is speak very well. And yet science has proven to us when one of our senses is retarded, our other senses become exaggerated. So when I stopped trying to make the monkey an elephant, and when I stopped trying to say, you should be able to do this, and I looked at what she was able to do, I laughed with her because I want her to speak to me in words when she's able to speak to me telepathically, when she's able to communicate into my mind the thoughts of things that she wants. And why would she ever use words when she could do that? And so most of the time I got it. Most of the time I was connected enough to her. I was sensitive enough to her. We love each other so much that I could hear what she was saying in the thoughts that she was giving. But sometimes I couldn't. And so when I couldn't, I asked her, Lisa, please use your words. Please try and tell me what you want. But her words were jarbled. And if I knew basically what she was talking about, I could put it together and sort of piece it together as if you were speaking a foreign language and you only knew a few of the words, but you knew the idea and you could get an idea of what they were saying. But sometimes I couldn't. And she would see that I couldn't. And so she would say it louder, thinking that if she could say it louder, I would hear it. But it wasn't the volume, it was the clarity. And so I still couldn't get it. And when I still couldn't get it, she would get frustrated and have a tantrum. And it would break my heart because I just wanted to get it and I couldn't get it. And when she had a tantrum and I still couldn't get it, she would come running at me and try and bite me or tear my shirt. In those moments, I was not thankful. In those moments, I didn't see the glory. But many moments later, I looked back and I said, my doggone daughter is just like every person I know. She's not as image conscious as everybody else. She's rawer than everybody else. She expresses it differently than everybody else, but not really. Everybody I know, when they speak and don't get heard, they yell. When they yell and they don't get heard, they create a scene. When they create a scene and they don't get heard, they destroy something or try to destroy something. And so what I realized is that this concept that just came to me somehow in meditation of peace, P-E-A-C-E, by peace, P-I-E-C-E, was such a beautifully simple concept. Because when you have people on two sides that are yelling and are disconnected, the only way to get peace is to go piece by piece, to have this piece connect to something, that this piece connects to something, and this piece connects to something. And slowly the pieces that connect the sides meet in the center, and suddenly we have a connection. And on that connection, we can build our future. And there are people that call that swarm intelligence. I'm coining it connected intelligence, because in our connection, we have the ability to do so much more than we can do on our own. I got to shut up because I could go on forever. But
Well, you know what's really interesting, and this is another reason why I love you and why we were meant to meet each other, is that I'm following in your footsteps, and I'm actually writing a book right now as well, and there's a concept in the book that I'm kind of coining. It's an and.
it's an end. I like that.
Yeah, and I thought of that because when you were describing, two people on either side, it's like, if we walk out of the context that you were talking about, let's just like this person is a gun enthusiast and this person is a vegan. Well, there's someone, in fact, I know someone who is vegan and a gun
Totally.
enthusiast.
Totally.
Right?
Totally.
And it's like, to me, it's like, in that sense, it's an and, right? We don't have to be on one side or the other. If there is a way that we can at least understand the other person's perspective and at least have enough grace and humility to say, I understand that that's right for you, we start creating an and. So when you were talking about your daughter, this is the method, piece by piece, we're going to come together and form an and
Yeah.
instead of an or.
Yeah.
And I loved how you were just describing that.
If we were to realize the only reason we've come here to do what we've come to do is because no one from the beginning of time until this moment has ever done that. And if we were to realize, because the universe and we together have conspired to do that for ourselves this moment, no one from this moment till the end of time will ever come to do that moment again. Because we don't have to copy things. We're not. The universe doesn't need us to do it a lot of times. It needs that to be done each time.
Mm.
And if we would realize that our purpose here holds the past to the future by the fact that we are creating what we came to do. I can't imagine anybody wondering, why would I not know my purpose? Why won't I want to know my purpose? Why won't I dig as deep as I possibly can to find my purpose? Because that's a pretty important moment. To be able to, in the span of time, do what you came to do.
So in an ideal world, let's say everybody knew their purpose and was willing to carry it out. What would that look like?
Wow. Wow. Well, let's look at a less than ideal world and see what that world looks like for a moment. In a world where most people don't know their purpose, we run around superficially on the outside of our life, getting caught up in issues and things that are really insignificant and meaningless. And because we don't know anything deeper than those, we spend our time getting caught up in the outside of the world, which is conflict. We get caught up when my side's right, my church is right, my belief system is right, my nation's right, my political party's right, my sex is right, the color of my skin is right, and we conflict with each other. In a world that's purposeful, in a world where we know our purpose, we go like a submarine beneath all that superficiality. And we connect to something that is much deeper than that, because our purpose then becomes, how do we create a united world? How do we build on the truth that we are all connected rather than we are all separate? Because as much as my purpose, I have to do my purpose here today because no one else has ever done it. When you do your purpose and I do my purpose, we're connected in that purpose. Mm. And we create, pardon my narcissism again, but the image is so beautiful for me. We create a mosaic of purpose. And my purpose on its own means very little. When I connect with other purposeful people and we create a purposeful mosaic, that's when we have impact. It's not that we all believe the same. It's that all of us walking together, doing what we were created to do, create a world that we were created to create. And that world, I guarantee you, none of us have seen yet. We don't know what that world looks like, because what we see is blocking us from seeing it. It's like those pictures where they're black and white drawings, and one's an old hag and one's a beautiful woman, socialite. When you see the old hag, you cannot for the life of you see the socialite. When you see the socialite, you can't see the old hag. Well, the world we're living in is preventing us from seeing the world that we really live in, the world that we dream of living in, the world that we were brought here to really create together. I call that world the Mosaic. Doesn't matter what the name of it's called. Other people will call it other things. But connected, we are so much more than we are individually. Individually, I'm just a little piece in that mosaic. It's beautiful, it's powerful, it's lovely. But connected, we're the whole artistry.
So a lot of what we're talking about, you could frame it as a future state that we want to either shift into. And I'm not going to use the word arrive because I don't believe in the word arrive. But to move toward this kind of more idealistic, collaborative world. Not to be a pessimist, but unless something absolutely drastic happened, we would not get an immediate shift. It's going to probably take one mind at a time, one spirit at a time, one body at a time. And so knowing what you know and being so passionate about this being how you live your life and that it could help others live their life and then the world on a larger scale, how are you being present in what we actually have right now?
I love you. Such a good question. Let me go a couple things, because you brought up a couple things that I would love to reframe, if I can, just from my perspective, not because you need to see it differently, but if you
want to see it differently.
Okay.
Go.
Okay. Once we understand, for me, let me just stop me. Once I start to understand that what I see is not what is, it's just what I see. And I start to ask myself the question, what would I see if I could see what I don't see? Statements of time start to disappear from me. Because what I start to see is past, present, and future are just lies that we tell ourselves. Because all of it exists in this moment called now. So waiting for something to happen in the future is what we do. But the future, there are people that are doing this work, that are having us go out 10 years and see our future, what it looks like, and now bring that future right into this present moment and create it right now. Because we don't have to wait those 10 years. Once we see it, and once we visualize it, and once we create it, and once it's real for us there, it's real for us here. And there is no time gap there. There's a time warp that allows us to connect all those past, present, and futures together. Once we understand that we're not separate, but we're connected, one mind at a time is all we need, because there is only one mind. It's a connected mind. It's a connected body. It's a connected consciousness. And once we go into that connected consciousness, everything changes. And so we want to make it really, really hard, because we believe the lie that we are separate. For me, the thing that I'm doing present tense right now And I think people are going to lock me up, conceivably, because it sounds so crazy. It's saying to people, why are you choosing to believe the lie when the lie is causing us so much pain? Science, which is something we all believed in, is telling us that in this body that's solid, there's nothing solid in it. There's no matter in this body. It's just swirls of energy. Mm. And that those swirls of energy commingle from millions of miles away, from galaxies away. At this moment, I am breathing the molecules of Hitler and Gandhi and John Lennon and Barack Obama and Donald Trump. They are in my body as we exist, because those molecules are traveling through the air that I breathe. Science is telling us that every 7 years, every cell in our body changes. So how do we stay the same person? Because our mind reconstructs the molecules into the DNA of our belief system and makes them act out this fallacy that we believe in, called the lie of Danny being Danny. As soon as I can drop that lie, as soon as I can have the courage to stand in a world where everybody will say I'm crazy, because the lie has become so easy to believe, we now think it's true. And say to people, there are no sides. There is only center. Yogananda, a saint from India who came over to America, and I never understood it. I don't understand it still today. He said, the world is center everywhere, circumference nowhere. I have no idea what that means. But there is no, what I believe he's saying is is what the Mosaic is sort of trying to show me now in a more simplistic way. That there are no sides to a mosaic that contains everything. Where are the sides? It's a connected universe. It's a connected world with no sides involved in any of it. Mm-hmm. There are no sides. There's center everywhere with no circumference.
Can I?
Yeah, please save me from myself here.
I'm going to very respectfully throw out some tough love, poke a hole in your theory. Please. Just because ironically you're asking all of us to challenge our own perceptions and Please. Our own theories. What is the difference between the belief that you have and you are now living compared to, let's say, a cult of some type, or like whether it be a religious cult or even a local organization, like a local Elks Club, let's say, that has their own belief? What is the difference between those? And then my extended question is, how would we even make those an and?
So fabulous question. And I love that I want to be challenged. So I love that you challenge it. Cult is such a supercharged word.
And I only use that because I've actually been in 3 cults in my life before.
Okay.
So
no,
yeah.
And I'm happy to have it be a supercharged word. But by the definition of a cult, the U.S. Army is a cult. By the definition of a cult, the Democratic Party is a cult. Mm-hmm. So once you uncharge the charge, the corporation that I work with is a cult. The family that I live in is a cult. The belief systems of the church that I go to are a cult. The belief systems of anybody who's talking a new philosophy is a cult. Mm-hmm. So when we unplug the charge that comes with, just to be personal because you shared it with me, someone who has been in 3 cults and has been hurt by those 3 cults, I'm assuming, what do we really see? We see that we are affected by the belief systems of the world around us. So what cult do we want to be a part of? Because every place we are part of is a cult.
This is why I love you. Number 3 reason. See this? Am I the only one? We're in a cult of 2, okay?
Right, we're in a cult of 2. and so for me, the cult that I choose to be a part of is the world of science. Because science has provable data. Einstein has provable data. And yet the line between the genius and the insane person is so palpably thin.
Yeah.
That it's easy to say they're insane. Like the ideas that I'm saying now, I don't believe that I'm a genius, but the ideas that I'm saying are so counterintuitive to the world that we live in. They're not old ideas. There are other people that believe them, but the PR people that I've talked to for the Mosaic said, you're the voice that we got to get out there. You'll get creamed. But we need somebody that's going to create piece by piece.
A natural disruptor, but a positive disruptor.
And like, I don't know this because I don't watch television. I certainly don't watch the news very much. But they said, we don't see a person out there speaking this voice. We see people on the sides. We see sit-ins happening, angry. We see movements happening, Me Too, which is a fabulous movement, but angry. We see civil rights happening, angry. We need a place where people can come together. And if I'm guilty of a cult of bringing together like and unlike minds to talk together, to sort of listen to each other, to understand each other, and through our joint experience and through our joint minds, we create a future that we don't even know exists now. Because if I only stay with the people that see the world that I see my future. If I invite unlike minds in who see the world totally unlike I do, what that allows me to do is see things that I've never seen before. And my definition of the impossible is I just haven't seen a way to make it possible yet. But suddenly when I sit with people who see the world differently than I do, and I listen to them, and I try and understand them, and they listen to me, suddenly we live in a world where all of us together are seeing things we never saw before. And we might just solve the impossible.
So in that scenario, are people gravitating to an idea, philosophy, concept that you've put out there? Or do they happen to just already believe the same thing and you've attracted that because you have let your voice out and you've let the vibrations of your message carry?
Hard to know. To be honest, I really don't know. But what I would like to believe is when we get behind this wall of pain, when we become vulnerable, when we become open, when we start to listen to each other and hear each other, when we start to do what my daughter taught me to do, which is listen and hear the things that aren't said. I believe all of us underneath our protection, underneath our pain, underneath our suffering, underneath our hatred, believe in a world that is beautiful and believe in a world that is not the world we're living in now. I'd be hard pressed to find people who stand up and say, this world that we're in right now, the way it exists in its totality is exactly the world I dreamed of. And it's exactly the world that I want to hand down to my children. There might be pockets of it that I can say that about, but I certainly can't say that this is a world I'm proud to hand down to my children.
So if this is all really about perception, maybe not all about it, but let's just, for this question, assume that it's about your perceptions. Um, wouldn't it be wouldn't it be true that no matter what is going on outside, similar to when you were just saying, if we can dismiss our anger and if we can look past kind of the stuff going on within us being a small microcosm of the entire world, if we can hone in with ourselves, wouldn't it be true that not necessarily turning a blind eye or being in denial, but aren't we able to create a great life for ourselves even though a lot of all of this is going on? Aren't we able to exist with the perfect life now if there's no timeline here? Like, we have here and now, so we get to choose how we're living right now. Why can't we just choose to focus on the things that either make us happy or allow us to help others, etc.?
Um, I think I get your question, and I think that yes, it's possible. One of the beautiful things, I don't know if you've ever had the experience of putting on virtual reality glasses.
I did once, and it was a roller coaster ride, and I had to take them right off.
Okay, so I did too, and the glasses that I put on put me on a wood plank 1,000 feet above the ground between two buildings that were way too far apart for my liking. And I was in the middle, and I had to get from one building to another. And I'm definitely scared of heights. And I'm a big guy walking on a wood plank. I don't have the best balance. And so with these glasses on, and in the reality that they put me in, my heart started to palpitate, my body started to sweat, my mind started to play games on me. And all the while I was standing on the floor of the store that I walked in. So in the actual reality, quote unquote, I was perfectly safe on a floor in a store with no possibility of any harm happening to me. In my perceived reality, my body was experiencing that as if it was 100% real. What that showed me is it doesn't matter what the reality, quote unquote, is. What matters is what I believe the reality is. And all that's necessary for us, this is not hard. All that's necessary for us to do is change our reality from being separate to being connected, and to seeing that my happiness helps the happiness of the world around me, but the world around me's unhappiness also affects my happiness. Mm. So in the old paradigm, we could shut the door on the world around us because we're not connected. We could create this beautiful life for ourselves. We could walk by a beggar and not give him any money because we know he's only going to use it for drink, even though he doesn't have any legs. And we know how much he needs that money. But we just compartmentalize it and say, no, we have our problems too, and we're not just going to do that. And this comes from someone who was so affected by that at an early age. I gave every cent that I had, which would have been a lot of money now, away to poor people. And looking back, it sounds like a beautiful thing, and I pat myself on the back and, oh, aren't you a holy man because you gave all that money away? It was dumb. I could have done way better for the world had I invested that money like it was invested and let it grow, and then created organizations and charities and benefits and all that type of thing. But I gave a lot of money away to poor people who 30 seconds later it was gone. And so I know that feeling. But now those virtual reality glasses, which will become more and more a part of our life, not by glasses, but just by virtual reality, are going to change our ability to perceive the reality that we live in. And we're going to start to ask ourselves, which real is real? And when we start to ask ourselves which real is real, then what happens?
So how do you find the balance between the two?
I can only answer what I don't know. I can only answer to you what comes to me right now. But that doesn't mean it's right what comes to me. I think everybody has to ask that question for themselves. What comes to me is that, are you familiar with swarm intelligence?
I may have heard it, but I don't know what it is.
There are people doing work. There's a company called Artificial AI who's doing work with swarm intelligence. And what they've noticed is when you see birds fly in a flock, there is no leader. They just, but they move in perfect synchronicity with each other. Mm-hmm. When you see fish swim in the ocean in a swarm, there again is no leader, but they're so connected to each other, they move through. When you see bees look for the perfect place for their hive, there's no leader. They all go out and they find, and then they come and swarm and decide which is the place that they live. We are one of the only creatures that doesn't swarm because we believe that we're right and you're wrong. And yet what they're doing is saying, what would happen if we could teach human beings how to swarm? So they started to do work with people in a virtual room where people from all over the world would enter into this virtual room and their mouse would become a magnet and there would be a puck in the center. And they would ask a question and have 8 different answers. And collectively, what they would watch is how their magnet would try and draw the puck to what they thought the right answer is, while everybody in the room did the same thing. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't like a consensus, it wasn't like a vote, it wasn't like what was going on, but they would watch the effect of this magnet being pulled in all these different ways, and it would eventually come to land in a certain spot. And what happened is they found in overwhelming amounts of time how they came up with the right answer, and it was a new answer that all of them on their own would never have come up with. And so some skeptics, I couldn't get the right word. Some skeptics came to them and said, we just don't believe you. This is bullshit. We don't believe that you're doing this. We don't believe it's right. And so they said, well, what could we, how could we were open to it. We'd love to be challenged. So tell us what you'd like us to do. They said, we want you to predict the winner of the Kentucky Derby, but not just the winner. We want you to predict first, second, third, and fourth. And by the way, the chances of you getting that right are 542 to 1. It's almost impossible to do. And they said, okay, let's try it. That'd be an interesting experiment. And so 2 weeks, 3 weeks before the Kentucky Derby ran, they brought 60 people that were just horse enthusiasts, not experts, not betting people, not anything, just they liked horse racing. And they brought them from different parts of the country, not anywhere, but virtually brought them into this room, gave them the mouse to be the magnet. They got first, second, third, and fourth perfectly. None of them on their own picked that horse to win that race. One person picked the third place person, but none of them picked individually what would happen. This new paradigm that I believe is coming is not a paradigm anymore where I know the answers or somebody knows the answers. It's where, almost like for America, where our forefathers got it right in the beginning, when the first 3 words of the Constitution said, we the people. Mm. When we the people come together, we create solutions to things that we individually can't even see.
Mm-hmm.
And so the hardest thing for me, because I want to speak with integrity and I don't want to be an airy-fairy person, and I don't want to say, well, I don't know what's going to happen. But Bucky Fuller said it so beautifully. He said, the solutions to the problems of the old paradigm cannot be found in the thinking of the old paradigm.
Mm.
We have to create a new paradigm that makes the old paradigm obsolete.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to invite the world to usher in, because the solutions we're creating are making the problems bigger, not smaller. And we all know the definition of insanity. We continue to do the same thing over and over again, thinking it's going to be better. Well, I'm tired of being insane.
Mm.
And I don't know if this will happen in my lifetime. I don't know if I'll be the one to help it happen. But here's my commitment. I will stand amidst worlds of challenging belief systems. And I will invite people to ask this one question. What if what I believe isn't right?
Mm.
What if something else could be more possible? What would I see if I could see what I don't see? And so when you say I have a list of questions that you want to ask me, I am so encouraged by it.
Mm.
Because it's in us coming together as unlike minds, not like minds, that we find the way to figure out a new truth. Siloed minds of like-minded communities, blah. It's just blowing smoke up each other's ass.
Well, we're not supposed to swear on this show.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
But number two,
backside.
this is where, like, we haven't really been using the word intuition a lot, and but the whole time I've been thinking it, and how it kind of parallels to the way that I interpret purpose, because I see intuitiveness being completely connected to purpose. And it was really interesting when you talked about the experiment that they did, because something I do in my intuitive coaching workshops is that I only let very few into a workshop, because I really like to make sure that we all are heard and we're all contributing in an equal way. But I've done this before, where I'll have everybody in the workshop coach me, but they do it collectively, right? So we might start off with me explaining what I'm having trouble with, or a solution I need to find. And we pause everything. And before they ask a question, each one of them says, I heard this. I know she said this, but really it brought up this for me. When she said that one word, it really stuck out to me. I'm really wondering what that meant. And they all kind of say what they're hearing, then they talk about it together, and collectively I ask them to ask me one question, and that moves our, session forward. And the power that comes out of that, like, a lot of times we're, especially as new coaches, we're afraid to ask the question that we really want to ask, or the question we really want to ask is buried so deep that, like, it's not even trying to surface, because we're too worried about the question that we want to ask, and we don't have that question. And where is it going to come from? Oh my God, I haven't been listening to my client. Now there's a pause. What do I do? Right? It's like, you get kind of caught in that trap. But intuition solves all of that. And so that's why I'm so passionate about it, because when we're able to balance those 4 dimensions and just let that intuition flow, our purpose is there. And so if we're in a client session with a client, our purpose is to, like you were saying, create that space for them to find their own answers. And all we simply have to do is ask a question. And if it's not our question, it's a question that just arrives, how much further can we move that client forward? How much faster can they get in tune with their own intuition? And then they don't need me anymore, right?
Yeah.
Like they've got themselves, and all that energy that they were using to fight themselves, now they can use to connect with others and
Yeah.
shift with others.
I so love that. And I found over the years that I've been coaching that what I thought was just what a talent everybody had, because it was just so obvious and natural to me. I realized it was just obvious and natural to me, but it wasn't something everybody else had. It was one of the gifts that I've been given that didn't feel, I mean, there's no like, wow, I have this gift, because it's just, that's how I live my life. I realized what I was able to do is feel another person's soul. When I sat with them, I was able to see what and I was able to hear what their soul was saying, because all of the garbage that they tell themselves, I can't hear. I hear it in my own body. Like when I go into my own soul, I hear all my, oh, you're not good enough, and you're not enough, and you can't do that, and you're just old, and you're whatever, you're fat, and you're not smart enough, and you're not good, and I hear all of those things for myself. But when I sit with you, I don't hear your stories. I just hear your soul. And so it isn't the questions that I ask you. It's the questions your own soul wants to say to you. But you can't hear, or I can't hear, because of all the noise that's in my system. And so that gift of being able to hear that question and say it, and I'll say something, and they'll say, wow, that's exactly what I'm working on, or that's exactly what I feel. And they'll give credit. Like they'll say, how did you do that? And I said, well, I didn't do anything. It was actually, you told me what to say. All I did is repeat it, and you're giving me credit for it. Right? It's ridiculous. But that's, for me, that's the place where coaching happens. That place that you're speaking of, and I know it so well, of people that have a list of questions to ask just in case they don't know what to ask. They go to that list of questions. Well, if we listen to the person we're speaking to, and it's speaking with us, they ask their own questions. And from that place of, gosh, I really feel like I'm too fat. Okay, how come? What does that feel like to you? It doesn't have to be like anything. All it has to be is that we draw out of them what it is they already are saying, so that they can either see the truth in it and continue to believe it, or say, hold it, that's not really something I believe. And then just drop it. Being unprotected, being vulnerable, listening to what comes, walking in purposefully, and creating the mosaic, building that mosaic connection, are such powerful steps. And it happens in coaching, it happens in business, it happens in personal life, it happens in families, it happens in lovers, it happens in children, it happens in anything. When we walk in, I've known a lot of people like this in my life. I've been very fortunate. They're not the best looking people. They're not the smartest people. They're not the richest people. They're not the funniest people. But when they walk into a room, the room wants to know who they are. And to me, that's the impact that we have. It's not because of the accomplishments we've had. Those don't mean anything. It's because of who we are and how we walk. Buddha's first sermon was not standing up on a pedestal and speaking to people. It was the way he walked when he got up from the Bodhi tree and walked into town because he was hungry. And people looked at him and said, I want to walk like him. When we are kind, vulnerable, purposeful, what we say doesn't matter. because who we are speaks much louder.
All right. What are we on? Number 4, number 5, Why I Love You? I know you have that book right there, don't you? Hold it up.
The Mosaic?
I knew it. I should have bet on it. Yeah, there it is. All right. Tell us how we can get it. Tell us how we can work with you.
The book is available. This is the love of my heart. It is.
I'm not the love of your heart.
You are the love of my heart. You're in here. You're one of my characters. The Mosaic is, none of these ideas that I spoke about are in the Mosaic. The Mosaic is a fable. It's the story about a boy who loses his parents 2 years apart on the same day. And when he asks the adults where his parents went, they tell him they went to a place called heaven. And so the boy, wanting nothing but to feel the love of his parents again, sets out in search of the place called heaven. And the people that he meets along the way are ordinary, regular people, a street worker, a blind woman, a waitress, a juice man, a trash man, a street artist, not your archetypes that you want your kids to grow up to be normal. Just ordinary, regular people. And he thinks, why am I meeting these people? Like I'm trying to find heaven. Why am I meeting these people? And it's the only thing he can think is he should sit and talk with them a little bit. And the more he sits to talk with these people, he realizes that what he sees is not what is. There's something more in them that he never saw. And when that happens to him a number of times, he meets a monk who unzips the sky and walks him through to a parallel reality where he meets the wise one. And the wise one says,
Don't tell us what the wise one says.
Okay, he meets the wise one.
Leave us in suspense.
There you go. So
you gotta get the book. All right. I should be your publicist.
You can be my publicist. It's available in soft launch right now until September 29th, only on Amazon.com.
Okay. Is it off of your website that you have?
I don't even have it on my website. Because a Mosaic is not one piece. It's supportive of everything. Okay. And so, and I don't even know that I'll ever sell it off my website. Okay. Because I want to support the people who support the story. It's so easy to go on Amazon. And if you live in a foreign country, you can order it in Kindle. But I would really recommend, the book is so beautiful. I would recommend you getting the hard copy book. It's not expensive. It's $19.95.
Okay, so we go to Amazon, we type in the Mosaic, Danny Levin, and it should pop right up. Daniel
Levin, but if you do it, okay, you'll find it for sure. Thank you so much.
And would you like people to visit your website as well to inquire about your coaching?
That would be fabulous. It's danielbrucelevin.com, okay. But my website, my website has to become more the mosaic of what I am. Right now, it's nice. It's not bad. But, and I'd love for them to go there and give me their feedback. But it will go through an overhaul of becoming more mosaic, because I've lived a life for 63 years now. And the first 60 I thought were incredibly purposeful. But the last 3 have really shown me my purpose. And all the other purposes that I thought I had are pretty insignificant compared to what I'm trying to do now with the Mosaic.
All right, we have to turn that whole answer around, and in one sentence, we're going to be really gentle with ourselves, and we're going to say our favorite thing about my website is...
I believe in an inside-out way of life, not an outside-in way of life. And my website talks about an inside-out way of life, living from inside and coming out. And so I love what's there. I love what's there. Period. Remember I said to you, this is honestly the first thing that I've ever really created that I am supremely proud of in every shape and form. it looks beautiful. The pictures are fabulous. The design of the book is fabulous. The feel of it is fabulous. But most of the things I create, I had the beauty of being trained by a rabbi, and he walked me into a room and would show into what people would call a perfect room. And he said, you have 30 seconds to find everything wrong. There's 10
That
things
is
wrong
a
here.
whole other episode, because I completely relate to that too. And maybe it's because we're both Jewish, but yeah, okay. I'm with you on that. We'll book another episode
I
sometime
love
in
that.
the future,
I love
even though the future is now, but we'll do it.
Okay.
Well, Danny, this was absolutely my pleasure to have you here. I enjoyed myself so much. So I want to thank you. And I also want to thank our viewers for being here. I hope that you guys also realized how special this was. And even if your perspective shifted just a little bit, then we did our job here today. This was a lot to take in, and it's possible. And if you resonate with it, reach out to Danny, ask him more questions. He is so open and he's willing to be vulnerable. And I threw him some tough questions today, so he weathered them extremely well. So, start a conversation with him, and I encourage you to always be shifting your perspective, because that's the greatest way we can all grow. So with that, we will say goodbye, and thank you all again for being here. Thanks again, Danny.
Thank you. Big love. Thank you for having me.
Bye.
Bye.
How are you?
If I was any better, it would be illegal.
Let it be illegal. Let it be illegal.
You could be trouble. I knew you were trouble the minute you walked in.
You did.
My specs here a minute, just so I know that it's my eyes that are dirty, not my glasses.
Do you want a lens wipe?
Thank you. Soon we will be able to do that, right?
I know. Wouldn't that be like a little compartment, like when you're at the bank? You know how you could have a chute, right? I could put in the chute, and maybe 40 seconds later you would get it. If even for a nanosecond, we could just flash forward even 30 years.
Yeah, we will be able. We will. It's happening. It's close. It's not as far as you think.
A glimpse of what that would look like a Back to the Future kind of look, just a nanosecond.
And I don't know that I spoke to you, but because I speak to so many people, but I have a very close friend who's watching the work of a guy who is he's a time traveler, I guess is how he calls himself.
I can't believe you just said that, because I was before you said that, I was he's a time traveler. And then you're he's a time traveler. And the last song that I was listening to is literally called Time Traveler.
You like that? Time traveler. You like that? Go backwards. You like that? Time traveler. Running from the future.
He says he's coming back from 2042, which is not that far ahead of us. But he's telling us what to him is history and what to us is our future. We have a huge golden retriever, an 85, 90-pound golden retriever.
Wow.
Gorgeous boy. His name is Hashtag.
Say it again?
His name is Hashtag.
Oh, Hashtag.
Yeah.
So how would you call him? If he's outside.
Hashtag, come here.
And he's hashtag what, Dad?
Yeah, he's always, and what we didn't realize when we named him is he always feels he has to be connected to something. So my wife goes crazy because he just can't leave her alone. So it's Hashtag connect.
Hashtag Mom.
That's right. Whereas before I had a golden, when I was by myself, I had a golden that was named Buddha, and he was always just very, austere and on his own and happy. Now we have Hashtag everything.
If he could only take selfies, right? He'd be Hashtag food bowl.
That's
Hashtag
right.
free.
Exactly.
Hashtag hydrant.
Exactly.
All right, I'm having
Exactly.
too much fun.